Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into something really specific in pot limit Omaha, especially for you, the learner.
Yeah, that's right. We've been looking at this scenario you brought up.
Exactly. Getting dealt 3 Broadway cards, 10, Jack, Queen, King, Ace.
Right.
But crucially, none of them share a suit. Offsuit.
Yeah,
Looks pretty decent, right? High cards.
it really does on the surface. And that's kind of the trap, isn't it?
Huh? Yeah, I guess so.
So our mission today basically is to figure out why that hand, which seems strong, is often, well, pretty weak in PLO.
And how you should actually play it depends on your seat, other factors.
Exactly. Position, stack sizes, opponents, all that stuff.
Okay, let's get into it. So imagine you're holding, say, King, Queen, Jack, maybe a random 4 offsuit with it, all
Right.
different suits.
Yep.
In Texas Hold'em, that's often a playable hand, maybe even strong sometimes. What's the big difference in PLO that makes it dangerous?
Well, it really boils down to the core idea of PLO hand strength. It's not like Hold'em where 2 strong cards can carry you. In Omaha, you really need all 4 cards working together.
Synergy.
Not Jake.
Okay.
And 3 unsuited Broadway cards. Even though they're high, they just don't have that coordination.
Coordination, so they don't connect well for straights, flushes, that kind of thing.
Precisely. They really limit the ways you can flop a strong draw. Think about it. If the flop comes, say, 10-9-2 rainbow
Okay.
with your king, queen, jack offsuit, what do you really have? You need very specific cards, runner sometimes.
Right, you're not drawing too much immediately, whereas if you had, like, King, Queen, Jack, 10, even if it was raggedy suits.
Now you're talking.
Well.
That's got an open-ender straight away. Plus potential for 2-pair, maybe trips if the board pairs up. Much more potential.
Gotcha. So it's less about the individual card ranks and more about how they combine.
Absolutely. And this lack of connection leads straight into another big problem. Domination.
Domination. Explain that.
Okay, so let's say the flop comes king high.
Hmm.
Maybe king 7-2.
All right.
You've got top pair with your king, queen, jack offsuit hand. Feels okay, maybe.
Maybe. Tentatively.
But because your other cards aren't really helping, you're super vulnerable. Someone else might have ace king, or king queen suited, or even king 7 for 2-pair.
Oof. Yeah, so they have the same pair, but way better shape overall.
Exactly. Their other cards are working with the king, giving them redraws, better kickers, 2 pairs, things your hand just doesn't have.
That sounds like a classic PLO way to lose a big pot, thinking you're good when you're actually crushed.
Happens all the time. And another point, which is just massive in Omaha, is making the nuts.
The best possible hand.
Right, these disconnected high card hands, they almost never flop the nut straight or the nut flush draw, or even nut made hand that often.
Because the cards just aren't set up for it from the start.
You got it. The potential just isn't there compared to more coordinated starting hands.
Okay, that paints a much clearer picture of why these hands are, well, often trouble. Now, position. You mentioned it earlier, and the sources really hammered this point. How critical is position with this specific type of hand?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, position is always king in PLO, right? But maybe even more so with marginal hands like this.
Why specifically?
Because position gives you information. You get to see what everyone else does before you act post-flop.
Makes sense.
And it lets you control the pot size better. With a weak, easily dominated hand like 3 unsuited Broadways, you definitely don't want to be building a huge pot out of position.
So let's break it down. Early position. Under the gun, UTG +1. Middle position even. What's the play there?
Honestly, just fold.
Really, just toss it.
Almost always, yes.
Yeah.
Think about it. You're acting first or second after the flop. You have this hand that doesn't flop well, gets dominated easily,
Yeah.
and you're likely facing multiple opponents behind you who could have much better, more coordinated hands.
You're basically flying blind into potential trouble.
Exactly. The risk is just way too high. Playing it there is just asking to get into tricky, expensive spots post-flop where you're guessing. So, yeah, early or middle position, muck it.
Okay. Strong advice. What about late position then? Cut off? Button, or does the door open a little bit there?
It can, but you got to be careful. This is where it gets a bit more nuanced.
How so?
If it folds around to you, or maybe there's just one limper.
So an unopened pot or minimal action.
Right. Then you might consider just limping along, or maybe calling a small single raise.
Just to see a cheap flop.
That's the idea. You're hoping to hit the flop hard in some unexpected way, maybe trip kings or something unlikely.
But you're not raising, not trying to build the pot yourself.
Definitely not pre-flop, no.
Yeah.
You're playing it speculatively. See a cheap flop, and importantly, you have position post-flop.
So you get that information advantage we talked about.
Correct. You can see how the flop hits everyone else before you decide whether to put more money in. But even then, you have to be ready to fold if you don't connect well.
Okay. So late position. Maybe a cautious call or limp in the right situation. What about the blinds? Small blind, big blind. You've already got money in.
Yeah, the blinds are tricky. Your last act pre-flop, which is good.
Right.
If someone makes a small raise, and maybe a couple of others call, you might be getting decent pot odds to call from the big blind.
Pot odds. The price versus the potential reward.
Exactly. So maybe you call. But again, super cautiously, small blind is tougher because you'll be out of position post-flop. Folding is often still best there.
And if it just limps around to you in the big blind.
Oh, then you definitely check. See the free flop. Why not?
Sure.
But same rules apply post-flop. Don't fall in love with top pair weak kicker. Be ready to check fold a lot.
So even from the blinds, it's not a license to get sticky with this hand?
Not at all. It's still fundamentally a weak starting hand in the grand scheme of PLO.
Okay. Beyond position, what other things should you be thinking about? The sources mentioned opponent tendencies.
Oh, definitely. That's huge. Are you playing against loose passive guys who limp a lot?
Or aggressive maniacs who raise every pot.
Right. If it's super aggressive, lots of 3-betting and 4-betting pre-flop, you need to tighten up everything.
Including folding these marginal Broadway hands more often.
Absolutely. You won't get to see those cheap flops you might be hoping for in late position. You'll just get blown off your hand or forced to commit more chips than you want pre-flop.
Makes sense. Play tighter against aggression. What about pot size itself? Can that change things? Like if there's already a huge multi-way pot brewing?
It can. Occasionally, if you're getting absolutely incredible pot odds in late position, maybe you make a call you otherwise wouldn't.
Because the potential payout is massive compared to the cost to call.
Yeah, but even then, be careful. You're still holding a hand that struggles to make the nets. It's easy to win a small pot and lose a huge one with these hands if you hit just a piece.
Tread carefully, even with good odds. Got it. Does cash versus tournament matter much?
A little bit, yeah. Tournament considerations, ICM, stack sizes, bubble play, they add layers. Generally, you might play even tighter early in a tournament. Chip preservation is key.
Right, avoiding marginal spots early on.
Exactly. Save the gambling for better hands or better situations.
And one more concept from the sources, the dangler. What's that about?
Ah, the dangler. That's your fourth card. Remember we said PLO is about all 4 cards working together? Well, if you have king, queen, jack offsuit, and your fourth card is like a deuce of another suit,
Okay.
that deuce is a dangler. It does basically nothing. It doesn't connect by rank, doesn't help with suits. It's just dead weight.
So a hand like K2J2 Rainbow is even worse than, say, KQJT Ranger.
Significantly worse, yeah. That 10 at least offers some straight potential with the other cards. The dangler just reduces the hand's overall possibilities. You ideally want all 4 cards to have some connection or potential.
That really clarifies the 4 cards working together idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to contrast, what does a really strong PLO hand look like? You know, the ones people are actually excited to get.
Sure. Think about double-suited aces, like ace, king, queen with 2 spades and 2
Oh,
hearts.
yeah.
High pairs, nut flush draws, straight possibilities. That's a premium hand.
Okay.
Or hands that are really connected and suited, like queen, jack, 10, 9, maybe double-suited again, or at least single-suited.
Loads of straight draws, flush draws.
Exactly. Wraps, combo draws. These hands can flop monstrously well. They have that coordination and nuttiness potential that the 3 unsuited Broadways just lack.
Big difference. It really shows what you're aiming for in PLO starting hands.
It does. It's about potential and connectivity.
So, final piece, post-flop. Let's say you took that chance, limped in late position, saw flop. What's the mindset now?
Number 1 rule, don't get stubborn.
Don't fall in love with your high cards.
Precisely. If the flop comes low or disconnected or doesn't give you a very strong draw, like maybe you flop top pair with no redraws, you have to be willing to just check and fold to aggression.
Get out cheap if you didn't hit hard.
Yes. Overplaying marginal hands like top pair, weak kicker, or gut shot draws with no backup is probably the single biggest leak for players learning PLO.
Because someone else very often has 2 pair, a set, a wrap, a flush draw.
All of the above. PLO is a game of big hands. If you don't have one or a very strong draw to one, you should usually be looking to control the pot or get out.
Don't pay people off when they have the nuts or close to it.
That's the name of the game.
Okay, this has been really insightful. Let's try and wrap this up. For you, the learner, listening right now, What's the main takeaway about three unsuited Broadway cards in PLO?
I think the main thing is recognize them for what they are. They look appealing because they're high cards, but fundamentally, in PLO, they are generally weak starting hands.
Weak because of that lack of coordination and the risk of domination.
Exactly. So you need to approach them with extreme caution.
And the rule for early and middle position.
Just fold. Seriously. Don't even think about it too much. It's almost always the right play long term.
Late position.
It's speculative. Only if the situation is right. Unopened pot, maybe one limper, consider a cheap limp or call.
Hoping to hit the flop just right, but ready to bail out immediately if you don't.
Absolutely. Play it for the minimum, hope for the maximum, but expect to fold post-flop most of the time.
So, really, the next time you look down and see those three big cards, all different suits, pause. Think about position. Think about coordination. Don't just react to the high card value.
It's a great example of how understanding PLO specifics hand structure, position, is so much more important than just looking at raw card rank.
A deeper understanding really changes how you see the game.
It really does. And maybe that leaves you with something to think about. How does really internalizing the value of coordination and position, not just for this hand, but for all hands, change your overall PLO strategy, especially when faced with hands that seem good but might be traps?
That's a great question to ponder. How much does that deeper understanding shift your whole approach? Food for thought.